nation.
I've had opportunities of discussing with Dr. Henry here, and I know that on a personal note, he prefers parliamentary system of government to the current presidential system that Nigeria, has. Can I ask, do you have a preference? Do you think transformation has a preference? If, for instance, you enter into government and it comes up with a constitution that is parliamentary, is that something that is possible?
I'm not going to speak for Nigerians. It's possible. This is a question that has to be put to the Nigerian people to make a choice. Nigeria, I would hope that at some point we would become a truly democratic nation and the voice of the majority of Nigerians will be able to be heard. If majority of Nigerians want a parliamentary system of government over the presidential system of government, then they should be able to have what they need, what they want. Personally, on a personal level, I don't believe the parliamentary system of government is the right system of government for Nigeria. And the reason I say that is just because of the complexity of running a parliamentary system of government. It leads to a lot of inefficiencies and wastage. And that is not what Nigeria needs. That's not what any African country needs. What Nigeria needs right now is a government that is going to be responsive, a government that is going to be proactive, a government that is able to be nimble and swift. Because if you come to the global stage, it's a cutthroat competition that people are having at the global stage. And you should be able to have a political system that should be able to compete at that level and protect the interest of Nigerians, which for me personally, I don't see that happening in a parliamentary system of government.
I don't counter you on that, even though I don't agree, because I know that the country we are in runs a parliamentary system. I know that Israel runs a parliamentary system.
In fact, apart from the US, most successful countries in the world run parliamentary system.
But what I want to say is this: if, as you said, that if the country, Nigeria, if the people should want a parliamentary system that as a government in power, that transformation will accept it. So, and we know that one of the features of a parliamentary system is coalition government. So is that something that, based on the system that Nigeria has, is that something that you are amenable to?
There's a few implications in what you've asked, which I would like to address.
Okay.
But before I address those, I would like to clarify that the most successful countries in the world don't practice a parliamentary system of government. And you're citing the example of the UK. I don't think currently the UK is a beacon of progress in the world, in as much as we live here and it's far better than the country we've come from. But I wouldn't cite the UK as a beacon of hope and progress in the world, obviously for good reasons. And I struggle to see those countries that practice a parliamentary system of government, prospering above those that practice the presidential system of government. However, be that as may, I would, come to the point that you've made. I have made my personal opinion clear about parliamentary and presidential system of government. It is for Nigerians, and it should be rightly for Nigerians to decide their system of government. However, as a person, I do not believe that parliamentary system of government is a better option for Nigeria and a better option for any country in Africa at this point in time. Because what I would like to see from Nigeria and from other African countries is I wouldn't say re-emergence because we've never really emerged, but an awakening and a becoming of nations across Africa, including my country, Nigeria. I want to see Nigeria rising to be a giant among the countries of the world, competing with the countries of the world, protecting the interests of the world, growing our economy, providing jobs and prosperity to millions of Nigerians, and securing the future of Nigerians in generations to come. That's what I would like to see for Nigeria. And I personally believe that a parliamentary system of government is not able to deliver that type of government. Just a moment. Especially given the complexity of where we come from, because it's always good, to say, this system was good here, this system was good here. I've said none of the parliamentary systems of government is better than, as far as I can see, globally. But even then, what I want to say is, when you're trying to propose political solutions to political problems, what you need to look at is your uniqueness. Looking at Nigerian uniqueness, the complexity we have as a nation, I don't believe that a parliamentary system of government is something that will, allow us to make any progress even in 1,000 years. So that, for that reason, I do not agree to. I personally do not like parliamentary system of government.
If I may interject,
just let me finish.
Yeah.
Coming to coalition is a fantastic political tool. So I am not opposed to coalition, as long as the partner or the partners in the coalition have the same principles and ideologies as ourselves. If we agree on principles and ideologies, I don't see that being a problem. We should be able to work together for the common good of our people. But if you're asking me if I want to go into coalition with people who have, divergent views and principles and the policies, not policies, but principles and beliefs, as myself, as other members of the transformation, I would say no. I would rather never be a politician than being in politics for the mere reason of being in politics. For me to be in politics, I'm in politics to try and improve the lives and the livelihoods of my fellow citizens.
Can I clarify something here? Because we have the indices of measuring countries that are doing well, and if you look at the globally today, you look at the G8. G8 are what we know today as countries that have the most prosperous economy in the world, and majority of the G8 countries, aside one, practice parliamentary system. Again, when you are saying Nigeria is practicing presidential system, I need to clarify this. Nigeria is not practicing presidential system. Nigeria is practicing a unitary system. Because if you take a good example of a country that practices presidential system, everybody will refer to United States of America. And if you look at how presidential system is practiced in the United States of America, is far from reality to what you have in Nigeria. And it tells you that Nigeria cannot even practice that level of presidential system. So, and again, to take us a bit, I know it's a constitutional matter, and I know we'll dedicate more time to look into this. But if you look at the history of Nigeria, for many people that don't know how Nigeria came to be, you have to go and read about the history of Nigeria. Nigeria was not a country. Nigeria was just an entity that was created by mere expression. But if we look at what transpired, even from 1914 till up to 1966, Nigeria practiced parliamentary system. And during those era, Nigerians of old and of present, doing comparison, will tell you that Nigeria was more prosperous during those era than what Nigeria has today. Did you take this into account yourself?
Well, I would like to address some of the points that you've raised now. Coming to the G8, I would say that the legacy of what we have in Europe and in most of the developed countries is as a result of the recent history of colonialism that they had. And which is why, if you look at most of the
and Nigeria is a product of colonialism.
That's right, yeah, and that's why when you look at the economies of most of the G8 countries, they are rather going backwards rather than forward, because they don't have access to free resources as they used to be. So the world has become a much more competitive place. So I wouldn't, regardless of the numbers you're looking at on the success of a parliamentary system of government among the G8 countries, I wouldn't cite that as an effectiveness of a parliamentary system of government. Secondly, I would like to say that we have this impression in Nigeria that Nigeria was never a country that was coined by the British to become a country on mere kind of wish. But I want to tell you that there is no a country in the world that initially just became a country. There is evolution. If you look at the evolution of societies, every society in the world has had a way it has evolved. Certainly, the British did not invent people in Nigeria. People existed, far before the British came to Nigeria. So what they did was to invent a political structure in Nigeria to try and unify the people of Nigeria. And for me, it has its own drawbacks. It has its own benefits, and we should not, hang our loss on what the British did and what they did not do. Nigeria has been an independent country, even if it's just independence by name, but it's been an independent country for 65 years now. And within these 65 years, as people with intellect and people who have God-given ability and talent, we should have been able to fashion out how we are going to lead ourselves, to prosperity and security. And the successes you attribute to parliamentary system of government in Nigeria before this present system, it has absolutely nothing to do with the parliamentary system of government. What it had to do was the structure that the British put in place before they left. And as the British left and we began to wallow in our own stupidity and idiocy, the systems and the infrastructures that are put in place, began to deteriorate and the economy began to flounder in consequence. So it has absolutely nothing to do with parliamentary system of government. And I would say, yes, the system of government we practice in Nigeria is you could call it unitary, you could call it federal. All I know is that our federation, our constitution is a federal system of government. What you practice in reality is up to you.
Do you believe that constitution?
Oh, and which is why I have said that the constitution needs to be rewritten to be able to take into account the realities of the nation, the aspirations of its people. Because currently, I believe that the Nigerian constitution is grossly deficient, but the constitution cannot be changed by the same people who are responsible for imposing the system we're in. For the constitution to be changed, it needs to be changed by people who go in through a very, radical means into government. And when I say radical, I don't mean killing people or, plotting a coup d'etat. I mean people standing up like, P2B had aspired in 2023. If we had been, I would say, responsible enough to understand the responsibility placed upon him by Nigerians, he would have been able to go in there and say, please, I want to craft a new constitution for Nigeria, and he would be able to make a stop on the wrong path that we're traveling. And then with that new constitution, then we can turn around and begin to travel back and recover ground.
Now, when you are talking about
where we are. So
yeah,
I think I've drawn enough inferences to P2B because I don't want to. I know this is a very sensitive issue for Nigerians, and I recognize the way Nigerians operate. Because there's this a lot of head mentality that if someone has emerged to be in this position, then he can do no wrong and he cannot be criticized. So I recognize that. But at the same time, I have a responsibility to myself to speak the way I understand it, but also to speak for the sake of Nigerians, because I personally know the burden that Nigerians, millions of Nigerians, face every single day. So it is important for us to make this fact clear. And I want to make it absolutely clear today that should an election be called for 2027 and P2B manages to secure the candidacy of any of the parties. In fact, even if he secures a candidacy of a party that is not known to majority of Nigerians, people, I will still vote him. And the reason I will vote and support him is because I believe that among the crop of political leaders in Nigeria, he is still like a star. Do you understand? He's still like a star, among the darkness we have. Now, but that's not to say that, we don't have problem. But what I'm hoping for is some sort of salvation.
If you don't mind, I want to take these two concluding questions and you take over. So now you talked about radical change. And if you check the history of Nigeria, the only radical change that has taken place that led to a change of constitution was military coup. The most recent was in 1975, 1976. That is the most popular radical change that has taken place. Now, we are talking about the.
You mean the time that a new constitution was?
Yeah,
that was 1979 constitution.
Yeah, it was the 1975, 1976
military coup. Okay.
Yeah, of Obasanjo and Moritala that ushered in a process that led into the 1979 constitution. So, when we are talking about radical change in
that's
Nigeria,
not the most recent constitution that we have. We had the 1999 constitution.
The 1999 constitution is just copy and paste of the 1979 constitution, and tweaking some. That is where they brought in, because the 1979 constitution was a federal constitution, but the 1999 constitution tweaked it to bring in a unitary pattern into the constitution. But there is up more than 80% the 1979 constitution
as well.
Yeah. So now let us look at the crop of leaders we have in Nigeria. I think we have the leaders in Nigeria I think they are confused. Don't you think so?
I personally believe you. They are confused.
Yeah, because if you look at
the confusion there is that in leadership in Nigeria, nobody takes political leadership seriously. That's the fact of the matter.
And why do you think this is the case? Because if you look at, let's go back 10 years ago. In 2015, President Buhari was elected on, a manifesto to restructure Nigeria. It never happened. If you look at even P2B that we've mentioned, if you look at listen to Atiku, listen to even some radical politicians like Showore, who is talking about revolution. We don't even know where the revolution is facing. It's just come on the street, put one hat on, and he's saying revolution. All we see, you are talking about P2B here. All we see is confusion all over the place.
Well, that's one of the symptoms of a very stymied nation. So because over time, and that's what I said when I was introducing the reason that one of the reasons we founded the transformation, because we've had problems in Nigeria pre-independence, post-independence, and if you look at the generation of Nigerians alive today, most of them, were born just on the cusp of independence or after independence. And these are people who have known just this corrupt and wretchedness that we have in the country and grown up, and they've never seen anything better than it. And when you grow into a system, you become part and parcel of that system. It is difficult for you to abstract yourself from that system to look at an alternative, because it is so difficult to visualize that alternative. So in Nigeria today, you have people who know nothing about the responsibility of political leadership. All they care about is to campaign for election, get into political power, and be able to have access and influence and do whatever, enjoy the benefits and the perks that those benefits bring.
So kind of transactional politics.
But when you look at countries that are prospering, that are stable, you see how seriously the political leadership, the political class in those countries take political leadership. Because I can tell you for a fact that any progress you see in this world, any progress you see, even in Nigeria that is not functioning properly, any progress you see is down to political leadership, political decision. The fact that you have train now running from Kaduna to Abuja is because of political decision. The fact that a person in Nigeria can die without consequence, you can go to your farm and be killed by a bandit or headsman or whatever they call them, it's because of political leadership. If you have a country where you have, good healthcare system, good education, good public infrastructure, is due to the political decisions made by the political class. So the trajectory of a country is not something that is done by accident. It's a carefully calculated decision made by the political leaders. If Nigeria were to become a good country today, it will be the decision made by the political leadership in Nigeria to put Nigeria on the path of growth. And there is going to be a political sacrifice there's going to be a sacrifice to be made for that. Some of them could be political sacrifice, some of them could be personal sacrifices to be made by the people who make that decision. But they are making that decision with the ultimate view that the benefits, is going to be something much better than the current status.
So, from the sentiments and the preferences that I could say you've expressed about the presidential and parliamentary system, you seem not to be a fan of collaboration. And I say that because I went through your online resources and I saw that the transformation has stated that for you to be able to collaborate with them, you need to dissolve all your structures. It seems you don't like anything about coalition.
I don't recall that being something that we've said in the transformation.
Okay, maybe you should you should have a look
to dissolve your structures.
Yeah, before you can collaborate with the transformation.
I don't recall that being one of our policies in the transformation.
Okay.
We are open to collaboration, but it has to be the right kind of collaboration.
So are you saying now that you don't have to dissolve your structures if you want to collaborate?
Not at all.
And become part
Not at
of
all.
a movement?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. As long as you have the right ideology, the right beliefs, the right principles, the right integrity for Nigeria, we can work with you. And frankly, we are not about political positions, but we recognize that political positions are necessary because that's where political decisions are made. So all we care about is a confluence of beliefs in Nigeria so that we can move the nation forward.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Well, we're trying to conclude. Just one last question. If we can address it in 30 seconds, then we'll conclude. Now, in the news this week, a Canadian court ruled that 2 major political parties in Nigeria are designated as terrorist organizations. Do you agree with this view? Or what is your opinion about it?
Well, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. And obviously, there's a plethora of reasons why I'm not surprised because PDP, APC, they are political organizations, that there's no distinction between its membership. And these are people who have led the country very terribly since 1999 to the present day. And the actions, that we've seen from them is nothing short of, scandalous. So when and that's really a shame. It's a shame not just on Nigerians but the whole of Africa. The fact that the 2 biggest parties in the most populous country in Africa, the most populous black country in the world, is designated as terrorist organization. By a Canadian government. It's really scandalous. Scandalous on all of us. Scandalous on the whole black people in the world. There's no better way to say it, but we would hope that some lessons will be learned, from this experience. So,
well, I hope lessons are learned because Nigerians have been. I know it's a topic for another day, but Nigerians have been, tackling the UK conservative leadership for so-called demarketing Nigeria from abroad. Meanwhile, we have, all these evidences coming from even within. The Nigerian president today is on record for being, for have been dealing in illicit drugs in the United States. Is I think it's a fact because there are evidence to prove that. So we Nigerians are countering the conservative leader in the UK, Kemi Badenoch. Meanwhile, we have all this coming out from Nigeria. Nigerians demarketing Nigeria, even in Nigeria.
If you look at the fact that people who are claiming self-determination in Nigeria, if you look at the fact that you cannot openly go and protest on the streets to claim self-determination, which is your inalienable right, just as you mentioned the word inalienable. And the fact that some years ago there was Lekki massacre, and all of us know very well about the youth service student, NYSC student, who said online that she was going for a demonstration and how the girl, the very young girl, got shot down by Nigerian security services. I don't think anybody needs any indices to know that Nigeria is an autocratic state where you cannot air dissent against the central government, against the federal government. So I concur with that judgment by the Canadian courts. In fact, if you are from a self-determination group in Nigeria, you are more likely to be given asylum abroad than if you go and identify with APC or PDP, just as the judgment, dismiss the same person. So I don't have anything against it. If they want, let them go and get themselves together and organize their party homes. But as far as I am concerned, I am in total agreement with that judgment. I wish even it would be issued by the Canadian government instead of just the Canadian judiciary.
Oh yeah, I totally understand that.
And and if you see what is happening, like people are killed in Nigeria every day. If you're a member of a opposition party, not even maybe agitation like the case of Lekki, you see opposition politicians are being slaughtered just because of political interest and all that. Well, I think we would get more information about this PDP, APC being, addressed as a terrorist organization, and we would, do further, insight analysis about that particular aspect of political development. So far, so good. I think we should call it a wrap for today. And please, we would invite you again because we have some further important discussions, especially leading to the 2027 Nigerian election, and I believe we'll gain more insight from you. And all of us would agree today that it has been a very interesting discussions. Please always follow us on our page. We're on YouTube, Glasscast Podcast. Same on Facebook, same on Twitter, same on TikTok, and every other social media platform. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you listen to our weekly episode, and I bet you'll be glad you did. Thank you once again, Mr. Jude, and thank you, Maze, Joko, and from myself and the entire Glasscast podcast crew. I want to say, have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Nice.